I'm going to open this meeting for the Polk County Board of Commissioners for Wednesday, August 6th. All commissioners are present. We have announcements on the agendas. Extra copies are on the side table. First item up is for comments for items that are not on this agenda. This is the public speaking portion. Okay, I see heads shaking. We'll move on to approval of the agenda.
Awesome.
Second. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye, pass unanimously. Approval of the minutes from July 30th.
So moved. I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, pass unanimously. Approval of consent calendar.
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Pass unanimously. Center Street Bridge presentation. Ann Hanson, you're up. And if you want to introduce others that you want to be in your stead, that's fine.
I will absolutely do that. Anna Henson, ODOT Area Manager. I will be introducing Andrew Walker, our Project Manager for the Center Street Bridge, and Bob Goodrich, who is our Consultant PM. So come on up and thanks for having us today.
All right, good morning, everybody. Appreciate the time. Appreciate the introduction, Anna. So like she said, Andrew Walker, I'm the project manager for the project, joined by Bob.
Yeah, Bob, I work with Dowell, the engineering firm supporting ODOT.
Yep. I know some of you might have seen this presentation before. I know Commissioner Moorhorst has seen it a few times now, but happy to share what we got now. And there has been a couple of updates, so I might have a surprise for you, Commissioner. So what we'll go over today, just kind of a high level overview of the project, just talking about purpose and need, that kind of thing. We'll hit the project schedule, some of those anticipated impacts, what we expect the construction schedule to be, like what activities will occur, what times, some specific traffic impacts, and then end coordination at the end. So first of all, just to give an idea of where the project is and the scope of the project and how we're approaching the project. This is, in downtown Salem, Center Street Bridge, going into West Salem. When this project was initially given to us in the House Bill 2017, we were talking about retrofitting the entire bridge. As the project developed and we developed the design a little bit further, we learned that, on the west side, there's liquefiable soil, which requires a retrofit of a different kind and likely requires complete replacement of the west side, whereas the river spans and the east spans can be fixed with a more traditional seismic retrofit option. And in order to keep the project moving forward, while we did that additional analysis on the west side, we opted to split it into two phases. So phase one, dealing with the east side, the ramps on the east side, as well as the river spans, and then phase two, which will likely result in a full replacement of one or both of those ramps there, would be pushed into a future phase where we'll be designing that after the construction, or we'll be looking at it during construction, but also continuing the design after construction of phase two, just to keep the positive momentum for going forward for the project. And we'll even be developing an emergency response plan that I'll talk about in a little bit. If, God forbid, an earthquake happens between when phase one and phase two. So phase one being complete and phase two not being complete yet. So phase one incorporates a number of different seismic retrofit strategies. On the transition between phase one and phase two, where we are in that liquefiable soil, we'll be replacing the bent that's there, or the pier that's there. And this is kind of indicative of what we found, right? That in this transition zone, we have to completely replace this in order to make it seismically adequate. And that would likely be a similar solution through the rest of phase two. And so that kind of shows you why we split that one off from the rest of the retrofit, because it's going to take a lot more time to consider the best solution when we're going to that level of retrofit. But yeah, on the transition zone on the west bank there, we'll be completely replacing that. It'll look similar to something like Abernathy, if you guys are familiar with that project.
I probably shouldn't say that.
So there'll be two new large I know, it's not always good to mention that one, but there'll be 2 new drilled shafts on either side of the existing foundation. And then we'll transition or we'll transfer the bridge onto those new shafts and then remove the existing one.
So let me ask you a question, since I interrupted you once already.
Sure, go ahead.
So you said, while we consider a plan for phase 2. So you're starting into this project, but you don't have a complete plan of what phase 2 actually is?
We have different ideas, but whenever we get to like a full replacement, you want to consider other options. So right now we think a replacement in kind of a single ramp is the best option, and it is feasible. But when you get to that level of retrofit, you want to consider other things, whether or not that's a different alignment, a different type of foundation. It just requires a higher level of analysis. Instead of just strengthening what's there, you're looking at a variety of different foundation types, alignments, traffic patterns, all those things.
All part of planning and design for any project. But what I hear you saying is that it's not complete.
Yeah, the design is not
not
complete for
complete.
phase 2. That's correct.
And likely we'll spend the money that's been allocated or hasn't yet been allocated for phase 1 part of this project, but phase 2 will hang out there with no funding because we have no idea, right? There's no design, there's no plan. So the plan is phase 2. So that's my concern is as we go forward, that's what you're describing is that's a huge piece cost wise. And, we'll have new challenges going forward to complete this project because we don't know what it's going to take. We don't know what it's going to cost, right?
Yeah, we have an estimate for what it would take for what we currently think it would be, and it's in the same range of what phase 1 would cost.
Say those numbers, please.
Be 200 million-ish, somewhere in that range.
Each phase,
Yes.
200 million each phase. So now we're at 400 million. When I testified in House Bill 2017, we were at 60.
Yes.
60. 400. Okay, thank you. I'm
Yeah.
sorry to interrupt you, but
Well,
we need clear language and clear numbers. So as we're making presentations and to the very point that you're saying, we don't know at this point what we're going to do to complete this project.
Yeah, I'll get there. So yeah, just to finish answering your question, one reason I try not to give specific numbers is for the reason you first mentioned, start at 60 million. And this is kind of a conundrum that ODOT often ends up in. We get asked for, give us an estimate now before you've done a full design.
Abernathy Bridge.
And other
Just
projects.
put that heading on it.
Yeah, sure. And so I like to put an asterisk when I give numbers is that this is what we think, but it's not fully designed, right? And numbers develop as you design and you learn more as we have on this project. And as far as future funding, I would say we actually do have a pretty good funding plan. It's in the planning documents for how we'll have it funded. Right now we're looking at a few different options, but bonding being the primary one. And we're committed to doing that. We're working with FHWA to fiscally constrain this project to make sure that that happens. So I wouldn't characterize it as hanging out there. I'd say ODOT's pretty committed. And we're legislatively mandated, so we can't not do it. House Bill 2017 says thou shalt do it. So until told otherwise, we're going to do phase 2. So I wouldn't necessarily agree with that characterization that it's just hanging out there. And we do have a planning study already in the works with Dell to work on phase 2 so that we can get the number more refined.
I would like to throw out there, it's a great opportunity to fix Wallace Road and Edgewater interchange in the bridge. So if we're gonna rebuild that, I know that's probably you're considering that at this time.
That's one of the reasons we'd like to look at it more in depth than just a traditional retrofit or replace in kind. We want to consider those options because if we're going to build a new bridge on that section and own it for the next 50 to 100 years, we want to make sure it's a facility that makes sense. So that's one of the things we would be looking at in that study. Yeah. All right, let's keep going through phase 1. All right, so within the river, we'll be doing a strengthening of the foundations there. So right now the foundations are on a kind of a spread footing that's supported by piles. We'll be enlarging that, adding additional piles and ground anchors to improve the seismic resiliency of the foundations themselves in the water. And I'll talk a little more about what that will look like in later slides. On the east side, a number of different strengthening options, strengthening some of the superstructure, enlarging some of the foundations, pier walls, a variety of more traditional seismic retrofits on the east side. One cool opportunity for this project that I think is a good example of partnerships between the agencies is working with Salem. City of Salem currently has 3 water lines that serve West Salem, none of which are seismically resilient. And they are looking to create that seismic resilient crossing, as well as improving their capacity to West Salem as it continues to grow. So right now they have a 24-inch water line on our bridge, and they would like to upgrade that to a 36-inch that's seismically resilient, which we'll be able to do and complete that all in phase 1. So that water line will be resilient after phase 1 and won't need to have any additional work in phase 2. For phase 1 schedule, what we're looking at, so right now we're heavy in design, working on getting that thing finished up. We're still doing permitting. We're still working on our right of way. Actually, we have most of our railroad approvals at this point, but looking to bid the project early next year and then start construction sometime early mid next year, and then be complete 29 or mid 2030, depending on how construction goes. So for some,
Clarify what railroad approval means? Where's the railroad involved here?
we'll be working next to the railroad. So if some of the foundations are adjacent to a railroad that goes through downtown Salem. You can actually see it there on that graphic, see how it goes under the bridge there. And so anytime we work there, we have to get approvals from the railroad,
I'm
and
assuming the dotted line's supposed to be the railroad.
just to the right of that, it's the 2 parallel lines. I don't think you can see my cursor. Yeah. On that one, you can see it actually. So right here, here's the railroad. In this project, we'll be building a pier wall to protect one of our foundations from potential railroad accidents, that kind of thing. So yeah, railroad approvals are required. So for anticipated impacts, first one is getting to those in-water piers and how we're going to retrofit those. Our strategy right now is to build a work bridge full length across the river and construct cofferdams around those, dewater those cofferdams so that we can work in the dry on those foundations, excavate around them, enlarge them, drive new piles and ground anchors. On either side, we'll be working within the park to retrofit both the west side where we're doing those new drilled shafts, and on the east side where we're doing some more traditional seismic retrofit. We'll do tree removal in that area, have a construction area, and then restore that area back to as good or better than it is today when we're done. We can talk more about this too, but there'll be a variety of different closures that will be required during construction, which would include 2-lane closures. So closing the north 2 lanes and then the south 2 lanes for up to 3 months for each of those closures, some ramp closures, and then in downtown on Front Street, there'll be a lane closure there as well. Most of these impacts, I would say, are minimal duration. We're talking a 3 to 4 year project and having closures for 2 to 3 months each for the variety of closures. That said, it's going to cause congestion, and we're planning to address that as best we can. It's unfortunate, but the only way to work on the bridge is to be on the bridge, and that's going to require us taking lanes at different times during the project, and it will cause congestion, but we're trying to mitigate that as best as we can with adjusting signal timing in downtown Salem, improving some striping and lane configurations for variety, or changing them for temporary circumstances during construction. Like I mentioned, the Front Street closure there as well. This is how we expect the order of events to occur during construction. This comes with a couple asterisks, just because, our requirement as an agency is to provide a feasible construction method. But once it's taken up by a contractor, they always have their own flavor to it. So it's likely that it'll look similar to this or even be very similar to this, but it's also very likely that the contractor will have their own ideas on how to do the work and we'll ask to adjust this in some way, shape or form. So as I go through this, keep that in mind, but first and foremost, the contractor is going to want to get that water line work going, because some of that water line work will be in areas that they're going to want to stage and construct in. And so getting that done first so that they can work over the top of it will be a big hurdle for them to get over first. And then getting all the temporary structures in place will be another one. Most of you probably realize this already, but there's only certain periods of time that we're allowed to work within the water, and those temporary structures are in the water. So that'll be critical path for the contractor, getting those the work bridge and the coffer dams in place as quickly as possible in 26.
Quick question. Do you anticipate any opportunity for design work for phase 2 during this time period? Or is that going to be in succession?
That will be in parallel.
In parallel?
So we're looking at, an alternatives development and seeing what makes sense best there with Dell. And that'll be happening during construction.
Okay.
And as far as when a proper design phase, when we pick an alternative and actually go forward with that, we're looking after construction is probably the timeline that'll occur, but we'll know more as that study develops. Yeah, good question. 27, starting on the east side, and the construction over there, continuing that in-water work. So the bridge will still be there, coffer dams will still be there. They'll still be working on enlarging those footings in the water. In 28, you're going to see more east side construction, completing a lot of the work on the west side, getting that water line done. And then 29/30, you'll see a lot of the cleanup work. So restoring that parking lot and other areas back to as they were. And there's my contact info, but I'm happy to answer any questions you guys have now. But if you think of any questions afterwards, feel free to reach out to me via email or phone. Questions?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Do you foresee any feasibility? Just hardline, this is not feasible for phase 2, given the liquefaction issues in the ground. Or are you an engineer that says we can build anything if you want, if we have enough money to build it?
Go ahead.
And the risks there.
There's risks. I don't foresee a situation where it's not feasible.
Mhm.
It's going to be cost, money and time to make it feasible. Because the bent 15 that Andrew talked about, the far west pier that we're replacing, the subsurface conditions going west are similar to what we've designed there for that foundation. And so we anticipate kind of similar large, on the expensive end foundations, but, feasible to design for the liquefaction and lateral spread. So.
And then this is a question I received from a few constituents. So I'm going to share that with you. And I think it's a good one. And the only answer I could give was it may be too expensive, but the delta in cost between potentially a new third bridge, should all the, political voices align, built with modern standards that is resilient to earthquakes and the like, would be, why not go that approach rather than nearly rebuilding an existing bridge? And maybe, you can take it.
I'll take that one. Actually, there's a lot of nuance to that question. It's a great question and one that many within ODOT ask as well. So the cost of it really depends on what that bridge looks like and where that bridge is built.
Yeah.
Just for comparison purposes, we inflated the third bridge option that was considered a while ago that was not pursued, and inflated that up. So it was about $1 billion to build that bridge.
About 670 in 2014.
Yeah.
Yep.
So to today's dollars, it'd be somewhere in that range. I think if we were to pursue a third bridge, it probably would not be in that configuration or location.
Mm-hmm.
So it's hard to know what that would cost exactly because you would need more specifics to
There
develop
would be
that.
cheaper alternatives potentially.
Yeah, I have my own ideas of where a third bridge would look good and be cost effective.
There's no political quagmire there to enter into.
Right, and that's maybe why it wouldn't be considered in that same location. I know there was, I think Representative Evans put together a commission at one point to look at other third bridge options, maybe closer to Kaiser. So that could be feasible, but just for comparison purposes, that bridge would likely be about $1 billion today, and we're looking at somewhere in the range of 400 million for what we're doing. So
Yeah,
those numbers are getting closer together.
yeah, it's interesting.
But we don't have any plans to pursue that at this point because, like I mentioned at the top,
You've been told.
House Bill 2017, we're going to build this.
It'd be interesting to see some of the cost estimates after the design work on phase two.
On phase two, yeah,
But
absolutely.
you might run into similar issues with the third bridge too. But
Yep.
so I'm, you know, the pangs of anxiety for me and a lot of folks in West Salem are those water lines. So that is a huge deal to strengthen those. And to Commissioner Murder's point, I think making improvements for those traffic conditions in West Salem, piggybacked on this project to the extent we can, would be really advisable. It's getting pretty bad over there, and some of those projects are long delayed. So this could be a good opportunity to fix some of that.
Yeah. The third bridge option actually considered some options on Center Street as well, that we will be considering in the phase two analysis as well. There was talk of removing, there's a sidewalk on there that could support an additional lane on Center Street. So there was talk of making that into an additional lane. There's some challenges in that because a lot of the congestion is actually not caused by the capacity of the bridge, it's the capacity of the connection. So, you know, you hit a signal there and a number of signals through downtown that all get congested and push onto the bridge. But there might be some benefit or other lane configurations in downtown. So those are all things we'll be looking at. And
Yeah.
I agree, there's an opportunity there. And one of the reasons we don't want to rush forward with a solution that may not be improving things.
Yeah.
So making sure we take advantage of that opportunity.
So I have concerns with emergency management and access for emergency vehicles, fire and police, fire ambulance and police. And I've never heard a satisfying answer to any of that. And all of our chiefs are concerned, of course, going forward because they haven't heard a satisfying answer either. But it makes me curious about, we have a railroad bridge that's still apparently viable, crossing that river, and what kind of conversation you all have had about using that as an alternative.
Sure. We actually met with them yesterday. And I won't characterize their response, but both of them thanked me afterwards for the presentation.
Who was?
The chiefs, I forget their last.
Oh, okay.
But they're both Polk Fire. They both thanked me afterwards for the presentation and said that, you know, we'd made a lot of improvements that they were happy with in our plan to help accommodate emergency vehicles. So maybe touch base with them afterward and check and see if they still have.
No, I need your answer on the record about the railroad
I'll
crossing.
also give you my answer. But as far as the railroad bridge, we talked about that yesterday as well. And there's a number of reasons why we don't think that's the best solution. One of them is that it doesn't accommodate all emergency vehicles.
Mhm.
It has size restrictions. And the other is that the coordination to get over that would likely be longer than to use our emergency plan that we have now. But in short, all emergency vehicles will be accommodated at all times during construction.
Okay, and so you have all that in writing? All of those concerns and qualifiers, et cetera, about why we wouldn't use that crossing as an alternative for emergency vehicles?
In writing.
Yeah, do you have that opinion in writing so that that could be distributed to those of us that have concerns about emergency management? It's not just me. I mean, and again, I appreciate that you had a fire chief or two that appreciated a presentation. But I'm asking real questions based on a potential 90,000 constituency here that's very worried about this. And we have hospitals and ambulance people that are very concerned about access to the trauma center, especially for Polk County going forward. And we have to ask this question and we need to understand how it's going to work. And I appreciate your presentation and your words, but I'd like to see it, you know, in writing on what's going to happen, how it's going to get done, and why we would not use an alternative that's sitting there that used to have trains going on it. So, yeah, I'd like to know what those reasons are.
Sure, yeah, happy to give you something in writing in response to that. We can do it via email or however you want, but where it's documented is in presentations we presented, including the Salem Health and many of the other emergency responders.
I didn't see it at all here.
Andrew, if I might jump in, do we have the presentation we gave EMS yesterday?
Yeah.
So we did meet, excuse me for jumping in, but, Anna Henson, BOC area manager, we gave a presentation with many EMS folks yesterday. We have that with us. We just didn't have time to update this presentation with that. So let's show you what we showed them, of what our plan is. There are gonna be impacts, right? Highway 22 is going to be congested.
Yep.
We're doing all we can to fix that. We're working with the city of Salem to work on, traffic signal timing, to optimize that, to move traffic through. The city of Salem, Kevin Hopman's traffic engineer, is not supportive of using the Union, the railroad bridge as a detour. We did talk to them about that as emergency service vehicles only, mainly because, the time it takes to set up traffic control, was longer than we're gonna be closed. And so there was no support for that. And that's why that came off the table, basically. But can we?
They're.
We have to check with our
they're gonna
IT
check with
department.
IT.
Oh, okay, because it's a,
Plug in.
okay. I think at the minimum,
Just get it, we can review it on our own.
I think we can provide you with that PowerPoint presentation, and then you can look at it, or we could come back again and go through it. If that's helpful.
So Andrew, can you just elaborate on what the plan is? You gave it. at
Sure.
The meeting.
Yeah, I can talk about,
And where it is.
yeah, so I can describe it too, but
Matt, don't hurry. But we're not gonna take time for all that.
It'll be quick. If.
Oh, is it clear?
He's got it.
Yeah, I got clear.
we have the presentation we gave yesterday as well. It has more specifics on how we address emergency management. So if we can just go through it if that's the case. If we're able to do that.
I've been like a broken record on this concern you have, and you're sharing it right now. Great, you guys will bring it up. They've done a very good job. They've met with Salem Health, during this, integrating plans and alternatives in the city of Salem.
Yep, Salem Fire, Salem Health,
They've got a fair-
Dallas, Polk Fire.
It's not perfect. But they've made some great considerations, and they listened to everybody concerned. Jim Bauer.
Haven't listened to me.
Yeah,
They are today.
Haven't listened to you.
there you know. Yeah, they've listened.
Still have a problem, apparently.
What is the problem?
Well, Anna just said it,
What?
specific to congestion.
Oh, that there'll be
Backup.
congestion?
How are you going to get apparatus through all of that? I mean, it's not your problem, but you're gonna block, the
Well,
current bottleneck
it-
even further.
It is our problem. I mean, we have to support EMS, and that's why I mentioned at the top, but I can show you how we'll do that. But we will accommodate vehicles 100% of the time.
And what I'm suggesting is, in this position, in Polk County government, concern for safety and well-being, livability for the people that live on the Polk County side of this bridge, that if we have another alternative, I don't care. In fact, I'll want to have the name of the individual that said, you can't use my bridge. Because if that railroad bridge was an alternative that could be considered, we should be considering it. And looking at what all that takes. And if we need a government to government conversation to get there, okay. But you're basically telling us it's a done deal. Doesn't matter what we think, and that it's decided. And that's a concern to me. It's like, we're not using all of the tools that we might have available to ensure that we have public safety first and foremost. So, I mean, again, it's traffic that has to go back and forth across. Well, I guess if they're coming to West Salem, they can get there just fine. They can't get back.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, we did consider the bridge, but we think our alternative will get vehicles across faster. So I guess I don't fully understand why you mean we're not using all the tools. It was a tool we considered, but we chose a tool that we think is more effective. You want to run through these, Bob, or you want me to do them?
Either way, I can do it.
You can take this one.
And I mean, I guess to just be clear, this only lightly touches on, is my mic on?
You're good.
the Union Street question, so we can maybe continue that discussion, but what's up here on the table are the various stages of construction that we have that will result in traffic impacts either on Center Street proper or Front Street or the ramps on the east side of the river that, connect to Front Street north and south. And so you can read through this. We'll break it down in several slides to follow here that kind of go phase by phase. But I'll just give you a second to read through there.
Sometimes if the mouse is too far away, so I put it back in the middle.
Oh, okay. I can left-hand mouse. Ambidextrous. Okay, so this first traffic stage, up to 3 months, we need to close 1 lane on Wallace Road and 1 lane on Center Street to create a 2-lane closure on Center Street proper. And so you see the red indicates lane closures. And so coming east on 22, we'll narrow traffic down, close the right lane, force traffic to the bridge that goes over Wallace Road as you come onto Center Street. And then similarly on Wallace Road, one of the lanes will be closed to create a closure for the south half of the bridge. That results in closing the southbound ramp to get onto Front Street on the east side. We're saying up to 3 months. ODOT and Dowell are working through specifications and liquidated damages to the contractor that are reflective of the road user charge, that the delay in queuing that's going to result. So they're going to be very large liquidated damages and we're going to shrink the time frame we give the contractor to do the work to encourage double shifts, working 6 or 7 days a week around the clock to hopefully improve on that 3 months and shrink it down. But we're messaging 3 months as, what we think is kind of a maximum, and things just get better as we go. So similarly, we've got to work on the south half of the bridge. So we close kind of the opposite lanes that we had closed on eastbound 22 and on Wallace Road to create that closure on the north side. I think I said that backwards, but to work on the other half of the bridge, that this results in closing the northbound ramp to Front Street. Very similar work. We just have to do it in stages. There's queuing here that is going to be, I live in West Salem. It's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to result in delays.
It's uncomfortable now.
It is. I live in West Salem. I very much understand how uncomfortable it is. It's uncomfortable both directions. So again, we're trying to, that 3 months is hopefully a maximum upper bound. And we've, been working through alternatives, with the detours. With the ramps will not be closed concurrently. So this is just looking at each of the 2 stages I described, going to result in the closures of those ramps. And the blue is the southbound detour. The orange or yellow is the northbound detour for when you're closing those ramps. And again, we've been working with Kevin Hotman at the city traffic engineer, ODOT traffic engineers, and DKS is our traffic subconsultant. To modify some of the intersections at Commercial and Center, Commercial and Liberty, and I guess it's Division and Liberty, to improve traffic flow. Again, it's not the magic elixir, but it's incremental improvements to reduce the pain. And like Andrew said, in the big picture, this is 4 years of construction, and we're talking, 4 to 6 months probably of these impacts. So it's relatively short duration for the overall construction of the project. And again, keeping in mind, we're doing this project because it's the only connection over the river that's seismically resilient. The Van Buren Bridge in Corvallis is open now, so there's a seismically resilient crossing. That is the closest crossing to get over the river. So this project is, it's a House bill project because it's important. The work has to be done. It results in traffic impacts. We're doing everything we can to minimize, but we're doing this project ultimately for better emergency response in the event of the Cascadia subduction zone earthquake. And so it's short-term pain for a long-term benefit to the entire region. So getting to, first responders, how does an ambulance from Dallas get through when there's queuing back to Eola or to Edgewater or, whatever, Rosemont. And so we're still working through the radio communication plan. The meeting we had with several emergency providers yesterday was a good step forward. We're setting up a meeting with the Willamette Valley Communication Center, which is kind of the dispatch hub, for later this month. They offered to kind of meet and talk radio, like get into the nitty gritty on radio frequencies and how what we need to put in our contract specifications to make sure the contractor is aware of the equipment they need and the staffing they need to maintain that communication. So that's kind of the underpinning of what I'm going to describe here. So and this is just an example of when we're closing the south half of the bridge, we're going to allow emergency vehicles because my cursor,
You can see it on that
you
one.
can see it on, maybe if you look to the right here. I lost.
You're at the top there.
Oh, there we go.
Keep it in the middle.
Oh, that's what's happening.
Yeah.
So they'll use what is closed, because we're not doing any work on the west half of the bridge. We're just closing it further back out of the need to kind of sort traffic where we need traffic to be to get the closure on the bridge. We will, when they get, so the work area will start kind of right on the West River bank. We're gonna have ability for emergency vehicles to get into this closed lane, free access, and kind of jump the queue, if you will, and have the contractor create space here in the queue.
That'll be set aside only for emergency vehicles.
Correct.
Well, we'd be working in that area too, but there would be a lane for them.
Well, we won't be working in all of the area
Indoor,
leading
that's-
up to
that's
here.
true.
The work will start here.
Yeah.
And at that point, there's gonna be a hole in the deck that is 10 to 15 feet wide. There's no getting anyone through while the work is occurring. And again, this comes back to, we physically have to do the work we need to do to retrofit the bridge. And so at that point, we'll allow the emergency vehicle to jump into the queue and get into downtown
across.
and get across.
And maybe you already mentioned this,
No,
Bob,
go
but just as far as before that, the queue will likely continue past there. The shoulder is
didn't
available, and we
mention
did talk with your fire chiefs about that. And they specifically asked about cleaning the shoulder, so that would be available. And we agreed that that's likely something we could accommodate as well, just so that it's a
Good addition.
better ride specifically for ambulances and folks that need a smoother ride.
And so this is just an example of the specification language we have currently. And we're gonna, bolster this as we have the meeting with the Willamette Valley Communications and continue to get feedback. Andrew sent this presentation to all of the emergency responders that met with us yesterday, even the ones that weren't able to meet. And we're gonna have continued conversations to make sure we, to the extent we can, address the concerns. Because we know there are concerns, we know our plan's not perfect, and that's why we're reaching out. But we also know that there's impacts to do the work. There's, unavoidable impacts, and we're just trying to minimize those.
Just curious, will there be ongoing communications, meetings with emergency management and fire chiefs during the project? Because you'll have the plan and then things change, right?
Sure.
There'll be contingencies, and how will that be ongoing and kind of responsive to the changes on the ground?
I can answer that. So that was one reason we wanted to meet with everyone yesterday, and I sent out an email asking for primary contacts of all the agencies so that we can create a contact list, essentially a master list of everyone for every agency, so that we can give lots of notice ahead of time before closures. We can receive feedback. So I guess the short answer is yes, we're going to continue to keep in contact with them, but the plan is to give lots of notice ahead of time before these closures, to coordinate that, to give every agency a chance to plan for it. If they'd rather route more traffic to Dallas, or if they want, they have plans to keep going over the bridge, to let us know, and so that we're prepared for that. Yeah, but yeah, it's a good question.
So then jumping to there's gonna be up to four nights, and again, we think it's 2 nights, but we're we're messaging up to 4 just because it's a big deal we're gonna close the bridge entirely overnight from about 11 PM to 5 AM or on weekends that are non-consecutive weekends. again, it's related to the deck level work. There's a full width expansion joint that basically lets the bridge move, and it's a very large joint because the size, the earthquakes result in lots of movement, so we need a big joint to drop in there. And it needs to be full width, and so we kind of unavoidably have these 6-hour closures we have to do. The primary and secondary detours shown there are for kind of the traveling public. Hopefully most people, again, the messaging will be out there weeks ahead of time. Hopefully most people plan accordingly and don't need to use the detour, but because they're pretty long detours to go to either Corvallis or up to McMinnville and Oregon 217. So first responders will be accommodating them on Marion Street. And so I'll just zoom in on the plan here. So they'll come off of Second, and we're gonna barrel off the north edge lane on Marion Street and let emergency vehicles run contraflow for the evening, on an as-needed basis. And there'll be a flagger stationed here to make sure that non-emergency users don't hop in, and to make sure that emergency vehicles have kind of free access in. Coming across into the east side, they'll make a left turn on Commercial, again, contraflow to, traffic that usually travels south on Commercial. And then we'll make a left onto Union Street and then be back on the street grid in normal fashion. And so that, this is maybe where some of the Union Street discussion comes in. And our determination with the city, with ODOT, with our project team is that this is faster and more efficient for emergency response than using Union Street. In addition to, some of the challenges with vertical clearance, because the truss spans, there's load capacity issues. Yes, trains used it, but the timber approach spans on the west end have decayed over the years, and they're usable as a pedestrian bridge, but as emergency response, it's not the first choice, especially for all types of emergency vehicles. Maybe smaller vehicles are fine. But again, this is just traffic wise more efficient, and it's used daily for vehicles anyway. So then there'll also be, due to some different work on the bridge, we'll need 20-minute full closures of the bridge up to 20 times, over the course of the project. And so what that'll do, it'll look similar to the 3-month stage I described earlier, with the exception there'll be, at the kind of where the purple arrow comes back in, we'll have flaggers that hold traffic for that 20-minute period. Contractor does their work, and then the flaggers will release traffic, and they won't be allowed to do another closure until the queuing clears from the previous closure. If an emergency vehicle needs to get through during that 20-minute closure, the work the contractor's doing doesn't have the deck opened up like I described earlier, where they physically couldn't get through. We'll have that radio two-way communication, provides advance notice. And in a couple of minutes, the contractor they'll be jacking the bridge up and down very slightly, but it'll be creating bumps that we don't want most vehicles going over. But if an emergency vehicle needs to come through, they can use that closed area again, jump the queue, the contractor can lock off their jacking operation and allow the vehicle through immediately. So we don't really see this as much of a delay. It's accommodating them in short fashion. And then last, these are the remaining traffic impacts that we don't think they have. They don't require special accommodations of emergency vehicles because they're less impactful than all the different stages I've talked about previously. I think. Yeah, and then we had these are just questions we wanted to follow up with emergency.
This sort of relates to your question. Commissioner Gordon.
With
as
kind of
far
the-
as
the ongoing,
How we'll
yeah.
establish ongoing communications with EMS during construction, you know, having that point of contact and then additional ones to follow up if we're not getting response, and then, you know, advance notice, procedures, two-way radio communications. That was one thing that, Polk Fire brought up, was that, you know, we don't want to add any additional procedures to our system, you know, what can we use that we're using now? And we talked about radio frequencies that we could do, and having someone on site, you know, manning that radio 24 hours so that that isn't ever a delay. We talked with OSP and the other, you know, Salem Police about law enforcement through there, keeping it safe and keeping it, how we have it designed. So anyway, those are all things we talked about to keep that communication during construction.
So there was a lot more to this than what you first presented, so appreciate that you had this part to add in because it's important for everyone to know.
Yeah.
I still am left with a question of, and now you've demonstrated that you can use Marion Street Bridge for nighttime for access for emergency vehicles only. Great. I think that's smart. That helps a lot in the presentation. But I still see the potential for a monster queue, and you live in West Salem, you might not fully appreciate how far back that queue can be when there's a closure on that bridge. But it can go back a long ways, you know, well past Oaks Ferry.
Yeah.
And
I've had it backed. I live near the Four Square Church in West Salem, and I've had traffic backed up onto Eola.
well, there you go.
So
And so if you're an
it's a
ambulance
different
operator,
backup, but yeah, it's the
and you
same.
encountered that, what are you gonna do? Now, hopefully, the radio communications will be such that they'll know that all lanes are closed. What ideally I would think is that if we know that we're gonna have those kinds of queues and closures, that we would have a dedicated space that would be emergency vehicle use only, or an alternative discussion for them to be able to use the Marion Street Bridge any time of the day, which I realize is very complex.
Yeah.
But again, you're doing it at nighttime where you have flaggers and you can manage that then. But all I'm looking for here is I know that there's a potential that there's going to be people in the back of an ambulance sitting out on Highway 22 for a long time. And now this 20-minute closure thing, it'll be more than 20 minutes, clearly. And as you're indicating, you won't allow another one until all the queue is clear. So it could take a long time.
I guess I maybe didn't make the point there, but those 20-minute closures will be limited to 11 PM to 5 AM as well.
Oh, okay.
So there should not be the large
Gotcha.
queuing. It will, yeah, I maybe skipped over that part. And so we don't anticipate large queues. There'll be some clearing that needs to happen, but it's not going to be noon on a Wednesday when they're closing the bridge fully.
Well, you'll have large queues just based on commuter traffic. We see large queues now
Yes.
every day. So, and that's when the lanes are open. So that,
Well, and I think yesterday in the meeting, I forget which responder requested, but Andrew mentioned, they said, hey, we're going to be using the shoulder. Can ODOT or the contractor keep the shoulder clear of debris? Knowing we're going to be using it probably, I mean, you're right, on a somewhat regular basis to leapfrog what we're calling it. And so the project or ODOT district, haven't worked through the details yet, but the shoulders will be cut clear of debris. I think is that reasonable to say?
Yeah, it was specifically for ambulance. So it was Polk Fire who asked for
Polk
that.
Fire, yeah. As
They weren't worried
that
about the
dedicated lane, if you will.
well, again, it seems that we could put up some signage on Highway 22, approaching that bridge with barricades or bollards, allowing that shoulder to be the emergency access lane to at least get them to the bridge. And, you know, with some signage to the idiots that don't read very well, at least, that this isn't for you. This is for ambulances. And I mean, again, we don't have a lot of fire trucks need to get there except this time of the year. But ambulances where my concern is,
Sure.
and it's not just from
It's a
Dallas, by the
valid
way.
concern, yeah. It's
And
very much a.
the entire county and sometimes from Benton County as they get diverted to go to Salem instead of Corvallis. So, and again, lives are at risk if we don't consider all of the possibilities here. And so that's where my beef is. And it has been my beef from the very beginning. So I appreciate this part of the presentation. Hopefully you guys will expand your thinking a little bit on crowding the traffic lanes over a little bit, giving some access, dedicated access for those closure periods, for the daytime use for ambulances or any emergency responder. Again, cops like to use those lanes too. So, I mean, if the shoulder's available to them, it won't be once we start queuing. Clearly, people, you know better than I do, they'll pack in there. So,
For police, we did talk about that too. They were less concerned about getting over the bridge. Their concern is getting more from east to west opposed west to east. And they said that their plan during the queues is just to station a couple of cars on the west side. But yeah, I think ambulances is probably the one that would use that the most.
okay, thank you.
Great job. Thanks for coming over today. We really appreciate it.
Yeah.
The county to hear, more importantly, our partners here. You understand Rick and thought you put into this. This is not gonna be fun. We know that going forward. Administrator Hanson just threw a question up. What if a car breaks down in the shoulder area?
Can you move this closer?
What if a car breaks down in that shoulder area? How are we keeping them for the ambulances? How will we get a record to them? It's an idea I should throw out there and take a look at it.
It actually got thrown out yesterday too. I forget who asked that question. I think it was OSP who asked that one, you know, how will we respond to that quickly? You know, breakdown or fender bender on the bridge is another one. We need to spend a little more time on that one, how we get that. You know, ODOT district often responds to those, and so maybe there's some additional coordination we can do on that one. And working with the EMS as well. But that's a good question that came up yesterday and again today, so, yeah.
Excellent. Great job today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Soon.
And then did you move it?
Jack didn't get it too.
Yeah, and Anna's just.
Anna.
Hi. Thanks for your good questions today. We appreciate it. We appreciate being here today. So it sounds like you want to update on a couple of projects that we have going on in Polk County.
Yes, please.
Plow Corner, maybe one, the roundabout. Paving for the west leg is complete. And we plan on opening the west leg of Plow Corner up on Monday, the 11th. So that's good news. Then we will do some sign work, some general cleanup, and then some seeding just of the disturbed ground that needs seeding. September 9th is a schedule for the final grind to match like the roundabout into Highway 99. So it might be a little bit rough where the roundabout meets Highway 99 initially, but that will be fixed. This project, Emery and Sons is a contractor on this project. They've been amazing. They've done a really good job, especially with the year delay dealing with Pacific Power's delay. And so we're excited. And I'm really glad that they're a successful contractor on this. So, and they're local. So that's always nice too. Oregon 2251 was another one you wanted to update on. On the larger project, our consultants are working really hard to kind of like break up this $250 million project into more fundable increments that will show a safety improvement. And so they've done broke that up into 9 different projects, we're calling them. Most of them are independent of each other. And we recently received approval from Federal Highway to break off the first project, which will be an interchange at Oregon 22 and 51. That was a big hurdle to have Federal Highway agree that that project has independent utility. And that will be a really good safety benefit for our area, right? We know that intersection is one of the worst in our area. So what that looks like is the next step will be assigning it a project number, and then we will design that to 50% plans. get environmental completed, and then look for some funding. So I don't know what the funding looks like, right? No one knows. So we'll just have to wait and see. So that will start, design will start probably like in January of next year.
And we have general design already.
Yes, yeah, conceptual design already, and they'll pick that up and then they'll break it off into a separate project and just refine that design, and then we'll get environmental clearance on that. If you've been out there recently, you'll see the interim improvements are complete. Thank you for your support for that project to allow us to move our traffic onto Elk Grove Road. You're gonna see a little more work out there. There's some signposts they've got to replace. Not clear on why. But that will be done. But other than that, I think that's been going really well. And thank you, Commissioner Mornhorst, because that was your brainstorm and it's,
So that was Commissioner Polk.
oh, excuse me. Yes, it's going good. Okay, what else? Kings Valley Highway?
Go ahead, Lee.
Okay.
My least favorite intersection.
So that project is going really well. We're in final plans and that will go to bid in December and into construction next year, early next year. So for the roundabout piece itself, as well as the realignment of the south leg of Prairie Dale, we'll be teeing that piece up. And so we're done with right-of-way acquisition, I'm fairly certain, and we're just cleaning the plans up and it's rolling along. And I think the last estimate is $3 million less than what we have funded right now. So that's good news too. Fingers crossed, the bids come in lower than what we have. So yeah, I think that might be it. Am I missing?
So just a couple of questions.
Yep.
Chance of funding for Prairie Dale Road realignment. Any idea where that is in the future?
I think our best bet is to apply for a grant. There's no extra funding laying around that ODOT can throw at that right now. I think we should apply for a grant. Federal DOT grants have been very sketchy. We've not seen a request, notice of availability on any of those grants, for quite a while, but I'll keep that on my radar. It definitely hasn't gone away.
Then last, cost overrun on the Cloud Corner 99 roundabout from the 1-year delay from Pacific Power delay on their poles. You any idea where that fell in at?
It was in the ballpark of 300,000 was the delay claim that our contractor gave us for that. We've negotiated that with Pacific Power and I think they're gonna pay like 250,000 or somewhere in that ballpark. So we consider that a win. We are pursuing that. We haven't received that funding back from Pacific Power yet, but I'm hopeful it'll happen.
Thank you.
Yes.
We've all been advocating for Pacific Power and others to prioritize public works projects. I think it's not necessarily their priority as a for-profit business, but in terms of community impact and cost to taxpayers, it ought to be prioritized. So I think they've been hearing it from small cities to the state. So that's good. Thanks for your help with that.
Yeah, you're welcome and thank you. I think we're getting bolder about going after the utilities that are delaying our projects. So, and thank you again. Thank you for having us. We appreciate it.
I just want to make certain to put on the record for you, and not that you need me to do that, but I'm going to do it anyway. Stapleton Road is getting worse by the day. And any more discussion with me that says, well, we're going to think about putting in TRAS is not a solution. Certainly it's a Band-Aid. So I'm acknowledging that. And we've had this discussion, but we just had another very serious crash there.
I saw that.
And they're happening more often.
Yeah.
And as development grows in the south end of Monmouth and Independence, it's
Yeah.
going to be a more impactful, not to use that pun as a pun, but more impactful intersection. It's a very scary place. And you've seen it, you've been in it. So, but I want to make certain for the people that we represent here that we're continuing to acknowledge It's such a scary place and we need to find a way, you know, to get them more room. I mean, the fact that we don't have turn lanes there, and people are making turn movements is causing, I think this one that just happened likely was that. And got run over by a very big truck.
Thank you. Thank you for the reminder. I need to double check on where we are with that. I was thinking our traffic folks were going to put out some intersection warning signs with the flashing light
Yeah, they're
on
there.
99. Are they there? Okay.
Like I said, we just had a really serious crash.
Yeah.
There's red flashing lights there now.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. I wasn't sure if those actually got installed yet or not. So, I'll touch bases with our traffic folks. And see where we are. Like, thank you. It's a good
Yeah.
reminder. I'll get back to you.
Appreciate it.
Okay. Anything else?
Thank you, Anna.
Okay. Thanks for having us. Okay. Bye.
Okay, that concludes our regular agenda items. We do have a need for an executive session. Hopefully all our parties that are needing to be in executive session are attending. So thank you all for coming. We're going to clear the room.
Thanks.
Okay, Morgan's gonna say his piece now.
You need me to, are you ready for the announcements?
Yeah, but I have one too.
Dude, you're ready to say your thing.
Yeah.
The board will now meet in executive session pursuant to OS 192-660 sub 2E to conduct deliberations of persons designated by the governing body to conduct real property transactions.